I'm going to say this straight. This is the kind of headline that makes you stop everything. Because just minutes ago, reports started coming in that an oil tanker linked to the United States was hit, not in some distant, irrelevant location, but in one of the most dangerous, most strategic choke points on Earth, the Strait of Hormuz. And the moment I saw it, I knew this wasn't just another news alert. This felt different. Because when an oil tanker gets hit there, it's not just an incident. It's a signal, a warning, a message to the entire world. And here's what makes this even more intense. This didn't happen in isolation. This happened in the middle of a rapidly escalating conflict, a conflict where tensions are already at the breaking point, where threats have already been made, and where one wrong move could spiral into something much bigger. I remember just sitting there thinking, is this it? Because if you've been watching closely, you already know. This exact scenario has been feared for weeks. Experts have warned about it. Governments have prepared for it. And now, it might actually be happening. A direct hit on a tanker tied to the United States, in a region where every ship, every movement, every decision carries global consequences. And trust me, what led to this moment? It's even more explosive than the attack itself. Let me explain why this is such a big deal. Because if you don't understand the location, you don't understand the danger. The Strait of Hormuz isn't just water, it's the artery of the global economy. A narrow passage where a massive portion of the world's oil supply flows every single day. And right now, that artery is under pressure. We're already seeing massive disruption. Oil prices have surged past critical levels. Shipping routes are being rerouted. Insurance costs are skyrocketing. And in the middle of all this chaos, Iran has made one thing very clear. Any vessel connected to the US or its allies could be considered a target. Let that sink in. That means this wasn't random. This wasn't an accident. If these reports are accurate, this was intentional, strategic, calculated. And here's where it gets even more intense. This isn't the first time. There have already been multiple incidents. Ships hit, tankers burning, crews scrambling to survive. Iran has even claimed previous strikes on oil vessels in the region. So when I saw this latest report, it didn't feel like a surprise. It felt like escalation. And the question that immediately hit me was, how far is this going to go? Because here's the truth nobody can ignore anymore. This situation has been building for weeks. Strike after strike, threat after threat, retaliation after retaliation. The US has already launched major military operations targeting Iranian positions near the strait. Iran has responded with missile and drone attacks across the region. And somewhere in the middle of all that, commercial shipping got caught in the crossfire. But now, it doesn't even look like crossfire anymore. It looks targeted, deliberate. Because think about it. If you wanted to send a message, you wouldn't just hit a military base. You'd hit something that affects the entire world, something that disrupts markets, something that forces governments to react, something like an oil tanker. And suddenly, everything starts to make sense. This isn't just about damage. This is about pressure, leverage, control. And as I kept digging, one realization kept coming back to me again and again. This might not be the peak. This might just be the beginning. There's always a moment where a situation stops being tense and starts becoming dangerous. For me, this was that moment. Because once oil tankers start getting hit, everything changes. This is no longer just military versus military. Now it's economic warfare, global impact. And I sat there thinking, what happens if this keeps happening? Because it only takes a few more strikes to shut the whole system down. We're already seeing reduced traffic, selective passage, controlled movement through the strait. And if that tightens even more, you're looking at global shortages, price shocks, economic instability, all triggered by a narrow strip of water most people never think about. That's the moment it hit me. This isn't just a regional conflict anymore. This is global. And every new attack pulls more of the world into it. But what really shocked me was what happened next. Because the reaction to this, immediate, explosive, you could feel the tension rising in real time, governments scrambling, markets reacting, analysts trying to make sense of it all. And behind the scenes, you already know what's happening. Emergency meetings, military alerts, strategic calculations. Because once something like this happens, You don't just ignore it, you respond, and that's where things get dangerous. Because every response creates the risk of another response, and another, a chain reaction. And I couldn't stop thinking, how many steps are we away from something bigger? Because we've seen this pattern before. History doesn't start with full-scale conflict. It starts with moments like this, moments people underestimate, moments that feel contained, until suddenly they're not. Let's zoom out for a second, because this isn't just about one tanker, this is about strategy. Iran knows exactly where to apply pressure, and right now, energy is the pressure point. We've already seen attacks on oil fields, infrastructure, and vessels across the region, and every single one of those actions sends a message. We can disrupt the system, not destroy it completely, not escalate uncontrollably, but apply just enough pressure to keep everyone on edge. That's what makes this so dangerous. It's controlled chaos, calculated escalation. And honestly, that's harder to deal with than all-out war, because it keeps everyone guessing, keeps everyone reacting, keeps the world unstable. And the more I thought about it, the clearer it became. This isn't random, this is strategy. I opened social media, and it was already exploding. People posting clips, breaking updates, speculation everywhere. Some were saying, this is the start of something big. Others were more cautious, wait for confirmation. But one thing was clear, everyone felt it, that tension, that uncertainty, that sense that something important just happened. And what really stood out to me was how fast people connected the dots. Oil tanker hit, Strait of Hormuz, global supply, economic impact. People weren't just reacting emotionally, they understood the stakes. And that's when I realized, this isn't just a news story, this is a global moment. Because when something like this happens, it doesn't stay local, it ripples across markets, across governments, across everyday lives. And the scariest part, we still don't know what comes next. Here's the reality. The world runs on connections, trade routes, alliances, systems that most people never think about. And the Strait of Hormuz is one of the most important connections of all. So when something disrupts it, even slightly, the effects spread everywhere. What we're seeing right now is how fragile those systems really are, how quickly things can shift, how fast stability can turn into uncertainty. But here's the deeper lesson. Moments like this force awareness. They force people to pay attention, to understand how interconnected everything is, because what happens in one narrow stretch of water can impact millions of lives around the world, and maybe that awareness is exactly what's needed right now. Section 9, Outro and Call to Action. So here we are, a single strike, a single moment, but potentially massive consequences. And the question now isn't just what happened, it's what happens next. Does this escalate? Does it stabilize? Or are we just at the beginning of something much bigger? I want to hear your take. Do you think this was a warning shot, or the start of a serious escalation? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want real breakdowns like this, not just headlines but what they actually mean, make sure you subscribe, because in moments like this, understanding the story behind the story, that's everything. And trust me, this situation, it's far from over. Hellas.